everyone, this is Congresswoman Katie Porter. As you know, I believe strongly that transparency and accountability are essential for good government. Congress is right in the middle of figuring out next year's budget, so I wanted to take a few minutes as a taxpayer advocate to talk to you, Orange County families, about where I stand and what I'm fighting for. I've been urging House appropriators to invest in 8 specific priorities that are really important to Orange County families. You may have heard that last year Congress brought back earmarks as part of the appropriations process. And I stood up to leaders of both parties, including Democratic leadership, to oppose earmarks, and I don't participate in them. I want to explain why. Earmarks are specific projects that Congress members advocate for their districts, for projects in their districts. And they unfortunately, sadly, have a long history of waste and fraud and abuse. I think it's better instead to listen to independent agencies, cabinet secretaries, people who are more isolated from political pressures than elected officials like me who are running for re-election in figuring out how much money needs to be spent and where. So I use the normal appropriations process to advocate for broad programs that will help everybody, including things that are especially important to Orange County. So what I'm going to do is dive into the 8 specific appropriations requests that I've made, explain to you what they are and what they will do to help Orange County families. Let's get started. My first appropriations request relates to the IRS. This is one of the biggest areas where we hear from constituents that they're having problems. The IRS isn't working like it's supposed to. So my appropriations requests focus on making sure we're funding the IRS so it can do its job efficiently and fairly. So I have 2 specific priorities here. One is cracking down on wealthy tax cheats. Special interests have spent years lobbying to defund the IRS so that ultra-wealthy and mega international corporations can get away with cheating on their taxes. The rest of us who pay our taxes have to pick up the slack. The second priority is making sure taxpayers like you and me can get our money back when we're owed refunds. The IRS budget cuts have been great for corporations and the ultra wealthy, like I mentioned, but they have been really hard on families and on small businesses that need their tax refunds. This is your money. The government needs to give it back to you promptly, and to do that, we have to fully fund the IRS. All right, second priority, preventing hate crimes. As many other leaders, like Sheriff Don Barnes has said, hate has no place in Orange County. The California Department of Justice recently released new data showing hate crimes are up 33% in our state, and hate crimes against Asian American Pacific Islanders, the AAPI community, are up 177%. That is unacceptable, and we have to take action. There are things we can do about this. So I'm urging Congress to invest in community-based approaches that will help prevent hate crimes. My third priority is protecting older Americans and every taxpayer from scams. Fraud and abuse in Medicare should concern us all because it costs taxpayers more than $60 billion every year. So I'm pushing to fund an important program called the Senior Medicare Patrol Program. And what this does is help educate older Americans and their advocates on how to avoid scams and how to report Medicare waste, fraud, and abuse. We all want to thank veterans for their service. We appreciate what they do for us, but we also need to make sure we're backing that gratitude with action. In this case, veterans who request copies of their service records are often having to wait months, even a year or more, to get those service records, which they need for VA benefits, for home loans, for GI Bill education grants. We need to digitize these records and bring the Veteran Personnel Center into the 21st century. The next priority is investing in mental health care for new moms. HHS, the Health and Human Services Agency, has just launched a maternal mental health hotline that Americans can call for free confidential help, and I'm urging my colleagues to fund this resource. I've been advocating on this since I first got to Congress, and I want to make sure we get that funding out there and make it easier as well for new mothers to get screened for problems like depression so that they can get the help that they need to have their babies off to a successful start. Number 6 appropriations request is to protect Americans from chemicals in food. Certain preservatives have not been tested in decades, including those that have been linked to serious health issues like cancer and reproductive health problems. So I'm pushing the FDA to get the resources, I'm fighting to get the FDA the resources that it finally needs to review these chemicals and make a determination if and at what level they're safe. This is a great example of an appropriation that shows you why earmarks that are specific for a district don't make sense. Everybody, every American needs this funding, and that's where we should be putting our dollars, not toward politicians' pet projects, but toward broad priorities like this. We all benefit from having safe food and drugs. My 7th priority is to support the LGBTQI plus community. Resources for this community have long been underfunded. Congress has a duty to serve every American, regardless of their gender identity or sexual orientation. So I'm pushing to create a new office within the National Institutes of Health that'll make it easier for the government to serve the LGBTQI plus community, make sure that their health needs and research needs are being met. All right, this one is number 8, last but not least, appropriations request that I made to make sure that we are teaching kids about public lands while we're boosting local economies. This is one of my favorite programs. It's called Every Kid Outdoors. And what it does is allow every single 4th grader in the United States and their family to get a free annual pass to visit our national parks. Many people don't know about this program and sometimes face logistical problems in being able to travel to the parks or knowing how to use them and have recreation time in them. So Every Kid Outdoors needs more funding to make sure that we can help every kid get outside, develop a lifelong love for nature, and this is a major, major source of economic growth and activity for many of our communities that are located near national parks. California has some of the, I think, the very best parks, the very best national parks in the country. Let's make sure that all American kids can get out with their families and enjoy those parks. That's what Every Kid Outdoors does, and I'm proud to again this year be championing an appropriations request to make sure this program is funded. That's it. Those are my 8 appropriations requests. Thank you for listening to me. We would love to know what you think. Which of these priorities is the most important to you? I'm pushing for all 8 of them, but I would love to hear your feedback about your top priorities. And if you have other ideas for appropriations, don't hesitate to call our office or reach out and tell us what you think. Thanks so much for listening.